What are your objectives, Michael?
Man, I've been working in construction for, since I can remember. And my objective is get out of that, try to get a tech job, as they say.
What wants you to get out of the construction industry?
I mean, anybody that's been working in construction or has an idea of how construction works, man, it's hard. It's labor. You're working with your hands most of the time. I mean, everybody works with their hands, but it just depends on what style. You're working outside. Sometimes you're working inside a building that don't have air conditioning, don't have airflow. Man, I spent years doing that. And I got to the point where I got kind of fed up. I mean, I climbed the ranks pretty cool. I come from an electrical background, so I was an electrician. He became a supervisor, manager, that thing. But it doesn't change the fact that you're still in the field, It doesn't change, the people that you deal with, the environment, the dirtiness. It's not bad. I'm not gonna, downsize how construction is. It just, you get to the point where you're like, man, is this really what I want to keep doing for another 10, 20, 30 years? And, most of the answers for me were just no. Like, I need to get out of this for sure.
Listen, I appreciate the service that I executed for my country. I was in the U.S. Navy, and they put me on a ship that was in overhaul. So I am not exaggerating when I say I feel your pain, man. There would be floors, which you call decks on the Navy, and they had a couple of layers on top of them of, I guess, primer, and then on top of that, some paint or whatever, then the adhesive, and then some like tile. So they'd give you like a deck grinder, which was this thing with these metal teeth that it was like grinding you had to grind on the tile first. And then after that, you had to sand through whatever layer of adhesive that was on top of that. And then the primer and whatever else had to be clean, bottom line. You had to be able to see your teeth go bling whenever you took a look at the floor because you left it shiny. And it got to the point where you had to wear these masks that had like these cartridges that were supposed to filter the polluted air because of all the dust and all the crazy stuff that's blowing. I don't even know if it was asbestos or whatever the case may be. You'd have dirt. I'd be picking out dirt out of my nostrils and dirt out of my belly button, and my hands, like the skin on my fingertips were so numb that whenever I would touch something, I just felt like it was bone. Like I could feel that I was touching the stuff with a bone, as if I had, as if I had no skin or no type of anything. So I totally respect that where you're coming from. Any situations that you could describe where, man, I've had enough of this, where you've just said, like you're saying, you can't breathe. Have you run into any circumstances where you're like, man, this is like.
We could be here. We could sit here all day, man. But the latest one, it is like, even though you're a supervisor at the end of the day, like, you have to get your hands dirty. Like, I'm not the one that's going to stand there and just direct orders, and a lot of people, I mean, I'm not going to say that everybody's like that, but everybody's not like that. It's a team effort. So you have to get on your hands and knees, sometimes, we do what's called site lighting, and, you have to dig a hole. You wouldn't think electricians dig holes, but we sure dig holes, and we get on our hands and knees and digging out dirt. In the middle of summer, it's 100 degrees outside, and, the last time I got super lightheaded, it was like about 102. And, it was just nasty conditions, but we had to get the job done because we had a deadline.
Right.
And, in the construction industry, you don't cry. You don't whine. I mean, you can whine, but, at the end of the day, you still got to get it done. So I had so many situations like that, that it's just like, man, you want to throw in the towel, but then you're like, man, like, this is how I feed my family. I can't just quit. You go to another company, it's the same thing. You're going to be doing the same thing. So yeah, man, situations like that. I mean, even like how you describe right now, what you're describing, like I've been inside buildings where, not our trade is doing the, all the dust and stuff like that. But other trades are, and you have to work right next to them. You're working shoulder to shoulder, and they're over here, making dust. You're breathing that in no matter what. So, man, there's situations like that all the time. And like they call us grunts sometimes, like, you're a grunt no matter what, because you're you're at the bottom of the barrel. You're doing the dirty work, man. So I have tons of stories like that, man. I have friends that, continue to do it, and they're just like, sometimes a lot of guys just don't see another way out just because that's what they grew up in. That's what I grew up in, working in construction, and you just don't see another way out. I mean, if you go home after an 8-10 hour day of working, the last thing you want to do is study. The last thing you want to do is go open a book or do something productive, to get yourself, that advancement. But, I know that's the only way to do it.
Absolutely. Any life-threatening situations? I know that stuff can get dangerous working with machinery all over the place and heavy objects.
Yeah, man. Sometimes we have to get up on either scissor lifts or booms. I personally haven't had something bad happen to me, which is really good. But I had a gentleman that was up on a scissor lift, and there's uneven floors in these construction places. The scissor lift pivoted, and he went out with it. He wasn't wearing a harness, and he grabbed the first thing that was in front of him, which was like a metal stud. And metal studs, if anybody's ever seen them, you can Google these things. Metal framing studs. They're sharp, man. They're really thin, but they're super sharp. And what he did, he grabbed them and he slid down, man, and just ripped through his hands.
Oh man.
I don't know what happened to him after that, but that was the situation. But man, you run into so many situations where you just to get the job done, you're just gonna do it. Man, I've had where people have accidents where they're on the 6-foot ladder. Man, you don't think a 6-foot ladder is that tall, but if you fall off of it, it's gonna hurt, man. Things like that, man. 10-foot ladders, where you're reaching over your head just to get that last screw in, or whatever the case may be. There's situations like that all the time, man. They're daily. I want to say they're daily. There are daily incidents where somebody doesn't see it, but it's happening.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's where I got my first encounter with. Well, they initially tell you in boot camp that you have to have attention to detail. That's why they have you fold your shirts in a certain way, and you have to be, everything has to fulfill their requirements because it could potentially save your life. Attention to detail. I mean, I know of people that they've been on the wrong side of a jet and they've had to hold on to like a flag, and they're actually flapping like a flag because the exhaust is blowing them, trying to blow them off the deck of the ship. So yeah, and there's been people that they've walked into propellers, they've gotten chopped up that way. This one guy, he got sucked into a jet's engine, and then fortunately his helmet came off, so the helmet actually jammed into the engine and it broke the engine before chopping him up. Thank God. Man. But yeah, no, I totally get that, man. I mean, have you been in any situations where you have encountered something life-threatening?
Not necessarily. I mean, well, yes and no, right? So I deal with electrical, like electricity, right? Electricity is that invisible devil, man. There's been times where, well, yeah, actually once. So I was probably like maybe 3 years in. I was an apprentice, right? They put me up on a roof with a bunch of AC units. These are massive units,
Right.
They're like, okay, open up that cabinet and just wait for my tech to come over. Well, my smart person that I was, I opened it up and I kind of knew what I was doing, but I didn't really know what I didn't know what I was doing. That's what happened. So I took my gloves off, and I put my hand inside to pull the fuse out. Well, I didn't know it was still energized, man. The next thing I remember is I was on the floor, and I kind of like, I don't know if I passed out. I think for me, I don't really remember what happened. I just remember reaching in. And then when I kind of came back to it, I was on the floor. And they told me that it was a 480 volts at it was like 100 amp service. And, they told me that I was looking to be alive. But that was there was a couple of other situations, but, I just would rather not even get into that. But that was one.
Not a problem. But listen, I mean, at this age, I've learned that even those unfortunate experiences are things for which, at least on my account, no financial advice or no health advice, I am appreciative for those situations. I've been in life-threatening situations. One time, somebody almost shot me because I said hi to his girl. I didn't even know it was his girl. And they were about to shoot me. They was like 16 years old. And my bones would have been dust by now, over some dumb stuff, because I grew up in a neighborhood where they were just killing each other for no reason. So, I mean, I totally get that. So I'd like to be able to relay some of the information that's on your resume, if that's all right. Is that okay that I read some of this stuff? Okay, so as an experienced business developer and project manager, I possess strong business acumen and the ability to navigate complex challenges. Now, with your resume, this is basically like a pitch deck when you are presenting it to a potential employer. You want to ensure that you're as clear as possible. So, as an experienced business developer and project manager, that could slide. And I possess strong business acumen and the ability to navigate complex challenges. You want to be able to describe why you have a strong business acumen. Are you a competent salesperson? So, I would like, ideally, if this was my resume, so it can read, how am I an experienced business developer? So have you been able to make 100 sales within a week or a month or whatever the case may be? Or were you able to increase sales from 0 to 100? So just get deeper into the business development aspect of your skill set, because that's what typically matters most in any professional environment. How can you contribute towards the sale of something? How can you resolve problems? How can you save money? Executed and delivered projects on time and within budget while maintaining high quality standards. I am passionate about driving results and fostering collaboration and thrive in a fast paced environment. Committed to a customer satisfaction with continuous improvements, I am posed to make an immediate impact and contribution to the overall success of the organization. So I don't know if you watched any of my previous videos. There's an organization with which I'm collaborating that they train people how to become a software development representative. So they basically sell applications. So for instance, I don't know if you ever heard of, you know what a customer relationship management software is?
No.
Okay, so have you heard of Salesforce at all?
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
heard of
I think
sales.
there's a Salesforce arena. I don't know if you're, well, that company, what they do is they have a software. So let's say you're a sales representative, right? So
Yeah,
as opposed to you using a pen and pad, what you're doing is you're taking the person's information. So let's say you're trying to sell me on whatever. You're like, okay, let's say you're trying to sell me a house, a business development project. I don't know what you work, maybe a building, right? And you're trying to sell me that building. And I'm a person, I'm a potential investor in that building. So, but you're not going to only speak with one person, you're going to speak to several people. So you want to keep a record of the people with whom you are speaking. So you say, all right, Neil Rodriguez, I made contact with him on May 18th, 2023. He said that he's interested. He said that he's going to speak with his partner and he'll get back to me next week. So you need a place to be able to document all that on there,
yeah,
right? And then like that, you have data. You have a data set of, all right, where's my success coming from? I met Neil because I went to a networking event and we shared a cup of wine or whatever, or coffee. And then you also met 10 other people that also resulted becoming an investor in your development projects. That through that method, which is basically a marketing play. So whatever money that you're putting towards getting to these networking events, let's say it costs, I don't know, $400 to go here, $1,000 over here. You know that they're producing X amount of money. The amount of money that you are able to generate based off my investment or anyone who you successfully persuade to invest in any of your projects. I don't know if does that make sense?
it does. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So basically what Salesforce does, it documents all that information, right? So as an SDR, as a software development representative, you will be selling these types of applications. These typically come with a fee. So people have to pay, I don't know, $49 per user, or 149 companies pay this money. So they're able to
yeah,
use this application. So your job would be to basically communicate. And typically, for the most part, or perhaps not for the most part, most precisely speaking, but this stuff sells itself. It's not something where you're doing hard sales, because these
yeah,
applications, they've already gotten to the level where they can hire other people. So they've already generated a certain amount of sales that required less resources than using you as a resource. So the number of these companies, some of them are startups, so they've got money with which they can invest to have people help sell their software even further. There's also applications that allow you to post your content on social media at the same time. So let's say you want to automatically post content. So that's the kind of stuff where your skills may come into play because you already have some business development experience. So most specifically with your professional experience, the way you want to make these skills transferable. So as we go on, you work for an organization which was a construction incorporated organization as a business development specialist. You collaborated with owner and project managers to assess and optimize the onboarding system by tailoring our skills to our customers' needs and expectations. So, how did you collaborate with the owner? How did you collaborate with the owner exactly? Do you remember that?
Yeah, man, they were a small outfit when and they pretty much didn't have a system, any system really. Like
Okay.
they were just, like, okay, we got this customer and that's it. Like they would just do follow up if they had like a project. What I did, I was like, well, man, you have to like where's like in your contact list here, like how you like keeping track of all this versus like their project managers were kind of more like they were like the business development, like they would go out there and talk to people and stuff like that, which people skills, right? But they had no format, like what you just said right now. What Salesforce does, they had no format. So for me, it was just like, okay, we'll just get a pen and paper, kind of a Rolodex style. Like let's get them on there and then see if they, they're a potential good project, but let's follow up with them. So that's what I did with them, pretty much.
I would explain exactly what I had them do. So I had them document their activity or their interactions with their prospects on a roller deck, or perhaps you did it on a spreadsheet or whatever. And let's say they were generating, I would estimate, I mean, you decide what you want to do. They were generating 4 sales a week. And in a month's time, after having the owner and the project managers follow the process that I instituted myself, they went to generating 20 sales a week or whatever the number may be. I use my best guess estimate. And basically, what you want to do is quantify exactly what it is that you did. And also, you don't know if the person may understand you on the other side of this resume. So you're communicating this thing. So just think about always, how can I package this in a way that will emotionally drive that person to say, Michael Valenzuela is the person that I want on my team to deliver the objective, or to basically meet the objective and meet the quotas that I have set for my organization. So the next one, delivered new framework for a pre-construction phase. This approach resulted in a 35% increase in customer upsells. Now, when I look at my resume, I was actually reviewing it, and I do have one case in particular where I didn't have the estimates completely set, and I did list in a bullet a percentage increase. I wouldn't do that anymore. Reason being, if it's 0 and 35% of 0 is what? 35% of 0 is just 0. You know what I'm saying? Delivered new framework for pre-construction phase. So what exactly was that framework? You describe exactly what that was. You put together a PowerPoint presentation, or you put together a spreadsheet where people can document that pre-construction phase or the steps that they take during that phase of pre-construction. And they went from obtaining 7 upsells, and then now it's 9 a day. You know what I'm saying? So from 7 upsells a day to 9 a day. Sounds a lot more clearer than just 35%, from 7 to 9. And then be more specific as to what that framework constituted in that pre-construction phase. You know what was that exactly?
It was pretty much daily meetings. That was one of the things
daily meetings?
Yeah, daily meetings. The thing in construction is that people assume that they know what everybody else is doing, and that's never the case. I learned it from a guy that had his own company. He's like, look, if you lay out every day what everybody's doing and document the process of it, like, hey, you know what? And then the next day, like, hey, you know what? We didn't complete this project, so now that's going to back up this. But now the person can wrap around and do another project. So it was pretty much daily meetings.
Daily meetings.
It facilitated a lot more than we originally thought it was going to do.
You could say we held daily meetings, or spearheaded. That's another thing. You may want to start to use the strongest action words that you can find. I can produce a list for you and I'll send it to you after this call. Like, for instance, a word like spearheaded. Spearheaded daily meetings that resulted in 2 more upsells every single day. Understand? So they went from, or resulting going from 7 upsells to 9 upsells. How much was it every single upsell worth?
And then no, they varied. It was from
The
rip.
most.
Yeah, it was probably like 10 grand, 10 grand, like
Each
because
upsell
that's
is 10 grand.
about yeah,
If it went up by, let's say if it went up by 2 upsells on a daily basis, that's $20,000 a day,
yeah,
up to $20,000 a day. And you could put those numbers in there. People understand numbers. So numbers,
yeah,
you get those numbers in there, it's a lot more powerful. Like, wow, he increased sales to generate an additional $20,000 a day. So you want to buy, and that's powerful right there. If
yeah.
you did that, that could probably be your first bullet. So that's the key thing that you want to remember. Built and developed a customer rapport that allowed a growth of 60% with a retention of 35% during the COVID pandemic. So you know what I think about percentages. Again, just simply quantify them as simply as possible. Build and develop a customer rapport. When you are building customer rapport, you are establishing common ground. How would you do that? How would you establish common ground?
Well, a lot of the times, we're in people's houses. We're doing remodels of kitchens, bathrooms, additions, things of that nature. And
Okay.
when you go into people's home, that there has to be a certain amount of trust that they're trusting you to be inside their home. And the way I effectively do that is like, yeah, you know what? Like there's things that we can adjust or, just not charge you, not trying to upsell you, but like if you did this, you get a lot more, space added to, or it just feel a lot more open. A lot of the customers that we had, they just wanted simplicity. They just wanted it to be effective. I'm like, well, you know what? If we don't knock this wall down and just knock this one off instead, which was a lot cheaper first. So for me, it wasn't so much of the upside; it was more of the convenience for the homeowner.
Okay.
So that I noticed that went a long way for me. It was like I'm not just trying to sell you; like I'm trying to give you a good product.
You could rewrite that something to the effect of engineered floor plans that allowed customers to save up to $6,000 on a development project, which increased retention and got customers to purchase. You got customers that were just buying a kitchen island where they were going to spend, I don't know what's a kitchen island cost, perhaps $2,000, $3,000. And now they coming back a month later and now they're spending $10,000 because they want the rest of the kitchen done or they want a room done or whatever the case may be. So,
Yeah.
and so you could say it went from where an average customer was spending only $2,000, they were spending up to $10,000.
Some of the percentages, like I didn't make them up. Like it was like, some
Right.
of the our ladies that were given to me, they're like, dude, we just increased it like this. I'm like, okay, well, I guess if that's what it did, then that's what it did.
Yeah, you want to speak to those people and you want to get the hard numbers. Like for instance, I one time drove somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.3 million unique visitors to a landing page where Adweek, I don't know if you heard of Adweek magazine. They yeah, so it's a magazine, they focus on advertising. And I drove about 1.4 or 1.3 million unique visitors, and that's money for a magazine, the amount of eyeballs that land on their web pages. So I went to the lady that actually sold the ads on that landing page. It was aggregated commercials, like the best commercials of the century or something to that effect.
Yeah.
So, or of the last decade, I believe. This was around 2009. And I asked her how much was that worth? How much was she charging the advertisers for that page? And she told me about $70 per each person. That equated to about $90,000 that I made for them in 4 days. So I have
Wow.
that on my spreadsheet. I mean, excuse me, my
Yeah.
spreadsheet. I'm getting so used to saying spreadsheet on my resume. So I don't know if you've seen my resume. I've actually put it up for everyone to access so they can use it as a template from which they can structure their own unique resume. I'll send it to you if you haven't received it as yet. And yeah, and I mean, and that's my portfolio. And my resume, a number of people, recruiters, they say, oh, your resume shouldn't be more than 1 page. My resume is like 3 pages.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, listen, the most highest paid job that I've had working for someone else, as opposed to me just working on my business, AOL. They were cutting me a $2,300 check every single week, and I was working from home in my PJs, just as I am now, back in 2010. And I was just I was just getting warmed up. I'm not going to say that I was a new jack. I already had some experience, but listing everything on my portfolio helped me get that job. The other thing that I went in with was a PowerPoint presentation. So before you even go to an interview, you first want to have already situations where you are describing a problem and how you resolve that problem. Because they always ask you, please tell me about a situation where you faced a difficult circumstance and how did you resolve it. So you should have those problems already memorized and the way that you resolve those problems already memorized into a story that you can deliver it time and time and time again. Because you got to be
Got
able
it.
to sell yourself. A number of people, they don't like sales. I didn't like sales. And when I tell people, listen, I'm into sales or whatever, they don't look at you as like, oh yeah, you're a salesperson. They don't look at you in the same prestige as, let's say, like a doctor. For the most part, a number of people who know, because if you take a look at the Forbes top 10, they're all salespeople. Understand what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
All of them. They developed the product and they were able to sell the product. Some people can develop an ill product and they can't sell it. They can't flip it if you can't sell. So you looking for a job, you only have to make one sale. There's millions of people with jobs, and all you need is one. All you need is one. So you got to make this package into your entire sales presentation. You are going to be the person that is going to fulfill every single requirement that they have set. Also, ideally, what you want is for your career objective and for all of these bullets to show how you fulfill all the requirements for the job. So, for instance, I think if I was in your particular shoes, none of this is financial advice, I would go for something in business development, selling tech. So this organization with which I work is called Course Careers. They've got like I think it's a $4.99 plan, and I am partnered with them, so they do give me a cut. But I did take a look at their structure. I mean, to me, it's cheap. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars in my education, not including college. College, and then that's what happens. A number of people they go to college, they spend north of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they still can't get a job. They go to Ivy League schools and all this stuff. I went to these big schools. Like I went to NYU, which is probably one of the best schools on the planet, if I'm not mistaken. Anyone can think whatever they want. I busted my ass to get in there, and I did it because I just wanted it. I was like, listen, if I'm going to go to school, I'm just going to kick ass. But it may not have been, I mean, for me, it was necessary because I came from a place like where I told you that someone almost shot me because I said hi to this girl, a bunch of senseless knuckleheads ready to blow your head off for no reason whatsoever. Even if it was his girl, like, and I'm like a 16-year-old kid, the guy's like 21 years old or something like that already. So that's from where I came. And a number of people in that area, like I never thought that you could make real money unless you were selling drugs or killing people or sticking people up. Like that's the only
yeah.
way that I thought that you actually can succeed. Then when I got into tech, first job I got, I asked for like 17, 18 bucks, which back in '06 was respectable. You know what I'm saying? It was more than minimum, probably like twice as much as minimum wage, more than twice as much as minimum wage. Now I think it's like minimum wage in some places, depending on where you live. Nonetheless, because my uncle, he told me, oh, once you make it, that's how much he was making. He was like a supervisor in a factory. He's like, oh, once you make it 17 bucks an hour, you're a professional. So what the hell I gotta look for anything else? And I was like, cool. And I show my portfolio up to that time, and I was a new jack at that time. And I knew things that people that C-level executives did not know, how to market websites. And this is all stuff that is good to have an understanding of because they all impact the bottom line of any organization. So I knew
Yeah.
all this stuff, and they saw the results that I had. I had already helped register 11,000 attendees to something called the Donald Trump Expo. I mean, this was before his political affiliations and everything. So, I'm apolitical. I don't buy any of that stuff. But I helped register 11,000 attendees using internet marketing tactics. And they saw everything that I did. And once I asked for 17 bucks, they're like, you sure? And I'm like, yeah. And bang, he just signed me up right away. Like, all right, cool. Next thing you know, like about a couple months later, I see there's this guy, he's next to me. He's an advertising sales executive for a magazine that the owner was launching. And it was payday. They give me my $700 and some check or whatever it came out to be. There's $759. He's getting a $10,000 check. I'm like, what? And this dude doesn't know half of what I'm doing. I'm rebuilding the website. I'm optimizing, doing all this technological crazy stuff. And I'm like, nah. I'm like, there's opportunity out here. I'm missing out. Understand what I'm saying? And he wasn't even working in tech. Like
Man,
I'm the
that's how I feel, man. I feel like there's so much opportunity out there, and it's like one step ahead of me, and I just can't get there, And like that's the thing. Like I think I'm not the only one that feels like that. I think there's tons of people that feel like that. Not only in construction.
absolutely no. I felt like that, and this was like the first corporate job that I had where they even gave me a title. I was like the internet marketing manager. Then I became the chief technology officer. And I started my own practice where I started selling these services to not only this organization, to other organizations. So I figured out and I started generating. And within a year's time, I went from making about $10 an hour prior to that job. And I threw like $150,000 in a bank that same year. I twisted everything around, but it all came through first off being positive. How old are you right now?
34.
34 years old. So you're in an age where you know that it's time to do something. You have kids, you have a family.
Yeah. I got a 2.5-year-old, and then I have a new baby that's about to be born next month, hopefully.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this is probably the perfect time, man. When I got this job, which was probably the first good job that I had, my wife, I think, no, she got pregnant right afterward, as a matter of fact. She got pregnant right afterwards. So it's like there's a saying in Colombia, my family's Colombian, that every baby comes with a loaf of bread tucked under his armpit. So I think, and I know that you're going to do great things with this stuff, man, where you learn whatever it is that you need to learn. Never say can't, because your words are very powerful. When God said, let there be light, he did it through words. We're the only creatures on this planet that use these words, and they're very powerful because everything we have around us is by the words. Like every single construction project that you've executed, you first have to lay it down with words, with the symbols, with the numbers, with the metrics. So don't ever say you can't, even if there are parts of your mind that tell you can't, because there's always going to be parts of your mind that just say, no, you're crazy. You're not going to be able to do that. No, because it wants to keep you in comfort. But you have to always fight against that, even if you have to meditate. I meditate on a daily basis. I learn how to basically calm myself down. I close my eyes. I concentrate like all my attention to certain parts of my body so I can relax myself. And I only let positive thoughts. I imagine everything that I want, billions that I want, everything. I put it into clear perspective how my life would be as long as I do it. And a lot of people think that it's BS, but it's not, because you manifest everything that you do, even what you're doing right now. Before you did it, it was words. It was words. Someone told you about it, perhaps, maybe. I don't know. Yo, there's a good position in construction. I could hook you up. Da da da. You just gotta know this. Gotta know that. Gotta know that. Gotta know. Gotta know. Gotta know. Gotta know. All information that you had to consume to do even what you're doing right now. So for you
Yeah.
to take the next step in the development of your career to ensure that you can save and feed your family and to do everything that you want with your life and love thy neighbor and complete every single objective that you have set for yourself, you have to first tell yourself that you can do it. Always. Always. If you have to pray, you have to meditate, whatever it is, always you can do it. But you have to also follow that up with action. Your brain already knows what it is. Everything that's around you, that plant that's behind you, the wall that's behind you, it was built by people that are not smarter than you. Just as smart as you are. The only thing is they consumed information that perhaps, and you, I mean, in your particular case, you already know how to build that wall behind you. But I mean, everything that you see that is marvelous, like something that you see like an incredible construction, like maybe, I don't know, the Eiffel Tower or the Freedom Tower, or everything was designed by people that have the same capabilities that you have. Understand?
Yeah.
Everything. So there is nothing that you can't accomplish. In other words, you can accomplish anything that you want to accomplish as long as you set your mind to it. It sounds cliche, but it's the truth. It's the truth. The only thing is you have to follow it up with the action. You have to follow it up with the action. If when you get home and you feel too tired, because I know exactly how you feel. You get home and you're dealing with numbers or you're dealing with whatever. I mean, it's probably, you've got additional stress on it because it's also you have to be performing physical activity. So you got physical activity. I mean, I felt like that when I was in the military, and I'd be partying after work because I just want to blow off. It feels like you got antifreeze leaking out of your ears. So sometimes you just got to get a little rest. Learn about meditation practices. I mean, I read up on. There's this guy called what's his name, Jose Silva, and I follow the way that he has taught people to focus. Anything. There's another guy called Joe Dispenza, and
Yeah.
just to learn how to relax your mind, to put it into what's called an alpha state, where the cycles of your brain slows down, and you can start to focus exactly what you want with your life, and just positively, continually repeat to yourself what you're going to do and how you're going to get that executed. If there's something you don't know how to do, go ahead and Google it. I try to list as many resources as possible on that spreadsheet. You know the spreadsheet that I'm talking about, the spreadsheet that I share on my channel?
Yep,
Yeah, I
I
have
do.
all kinds of resources there that, I mean, my mantra is that I want to provide as many resources that will guide you and every single one of my viewers, which I consider my brothers and my sisters, to be whatever they want to be, because I truly believe that. And as I have told you before, I came from a place, I don't say nothing because God still blessed me with some good stuff. I had a good family. I mean, that's probably what part of what saved me, because my family, they were college educated. And I was like, you know what? If I don't educate myself, I'm going to be the only dumbass in the family. And that challenge pushed me towards seeking education. And I have a collegiate educational background, and it did not make every part of me. Nonetheless, it gave me the foundation upon which I could now learn new things, because I've seen people where they don't have that education, that initial education. It's harder for them to be able to adopt new tactics and new technical ways for them to accomplish different tasks. So yeah, I mean, just educate yourself. Course careers, not financial advice. I would go for it. I mean, I've been able to sell software. On the video where I thoroughly covered the program, I discussed how I sold. I think it was like an $8,000 package in like about a week. And it took me about a week to prepare for this thing. And I think I showed I forgot exactly how much they paid me initially. I'm not sure if it was 4 or 5,000. Like, and that's like about a week's time. So it's easy stuff. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's easy. You just got to put the work in. It's not, but you're not physically getting up. Like I force myself to physically work out and all this other stuff, but I really don't have to do it. At least I don't have to do it professionally. I had to do it when I was in the military. But I think you want to be in that position where, especially once you're 34. I don't know if you encounter any injuries and stuff like that. Your body sometimes, and if it doesn't happen now, God forbid, it may happen in the future. Like I had gotten to the point where I was doing 1 mile races, and I hurt my knees because I started doing sprints on the cement, and now I don't run anymore. So it's a limitation to my body that I had never encountered. That happened like 8 years ago. And that happened, I was around your age around that time. So you never know, so it's better, I believe, at least in my particular situation, where you use your brain as opposed to your brawn. The more you use your brain and the older you get, I believe you're better for it. And you also get acclimated to resolving everything like that. Like not just doing things where, okay, I want to do it, but you don't seek the information. You got to seek the information. You got to understand. We're on this planet. We've been here for billions of years. So there is all this information, all these people that have all of this experience, right? It's like, for instance, you know construction, right? But that
Yeah.
information that you have now, it's a result of human beings learning how to build buildings and homes and any structure that we see before us today in a way that people didn't build back in the day. I mean, arguably, the pyramids and stuff like that, the Egyptians, they built them a lot stronger than the stuff today. But initially, you see people building houses with twigs and with, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was a
Yeah.
less developed way. So this came through education, education, information that kept on getting passed down. So the same thing. You want to do something that's different, take that information that's passed down. Whether you use course careers, whether you can go and seek another organization. I mean, I always share this hack with people. If you don't have the facility to be able to come out of your pockets to, let's say, educate yourself on anything, then take a look at the bullets of the educational offer that they have before you. All right, we're going to teach you how to close sales of software, of business software. And then you just take that bullet and just Google it, throw it on YouTube, and there'll be someone that'll give you, some information on it. And that'll at least give you a start. The only thing that's time consuming. So time is more valuable than money in my
Oh yeah.
particular, yeah, because the time that you've lost, if you miss something back in the past, it's gone. Forget about it. Forget about everything that happened in the past, but with this additional time that you still have, you look great, you look healthy, you go ahead and leverage that to be able to generate as much as you can, because that's the value that you can exchange in order to serve the people that you love. Understand what I'm saying, Michael? And I
I
know
do.
that you have the ability to do it. You just gotta, find the time as much as possible. Like I said, if you feel very tired when you get back, just try to do something, perhaps take a nap, do whatever you need to do. But always keep in mind, all right, today I'm going to complete this. Like typically when you're enter some type of training program, whether it's free, whether it's paid for. Sometimes in your city, you could also find it. You can go to like a workforce. There's like I don't know if in your area there's like a workforce one or something like that, or some type of government plan. They provide grants where they have like training to be technologically proficient or whatever the case may be. I think that the ideal route would be something in software development. Excuse me, not software development, in software sales, where you're
Yeah.
an account executive and you're selling this stuff, where it doesn't require for you to be very technologically proficient. You don't have
Yeah.
to learn how to code or anything like that. You simply have to know how to sell the product and how to communicate that the product that you are pitching to someone is delivering the value that that organization requires. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. No, it does.
Yeah. Yeah, and you just got to find whatever it is that challenges you and forces you to do whatever you need to do. Honestly, sometimes it's just a decision. Like one of my time wasters is Netflix. Even if the movie sucks, I'm watching it. It like this thing is mesmerizing for me. But sometimes I just have to make the decision. I just be like, just snap out of it and be like, let me hit the box. Even if I got to take my little laptop right next to where my big screen is at. I got this like little table and I just throw it on and I don't turn on the TV. I just do the work right there. And it sometimes has the same effect. I've got to do the work of reviewing YouTube. My main, a lot of what my media organization has lined up is structured through YouTube. It revolves around the activity on YouTube. So sometimes, and honestly, I don't like watching YouTube that much. I prefer watching Netflix. You know what I'm saying? I like watching movies more. But if I have that in an area where I feel comfortable, it becomes a lot easier for me to perform the tasks that I need to perform in order to move my business forward. So you want your work area to be just as comfortable as the place where you waste time, or where you use time that's not adding towards your productivity, that's adding towards what you need to complete, that's adding
Yeah.
towards that's contributing towards your professional development, towards your all types of development, really. Because if you're at peace, if you know that you can provide for your family, you feel a lot better for yourself. You're happier with people around you. You can serve people. You can help out the people that you love a lot better. So yeah, I could throw you that resource, and of course, always refer to the spreadsheet. So that's just one career path, and of course, there are others. There's a lot of people that are getting into cybersecurity. They're getting where you have to have some. Do you know anything like in terms? Do you know how to code by any chance, or anything in particular okay, so that may be a good way to start. That definitely what I do. It requires some technological proficiency. You don't have to do what I do in order to meet your objectives, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So
No.
yeah, like a lot of this technological stuff that I do is for sport. Lost a child with my wife. She had a miscarriage, and I was just spending time with them. And then I was just doing coding like for a few months, and that actually helped me because I had to do some community service last year, and my community service was teaching elementary school kids how to code, and I helped hundreds of kids throughout the country, learn how to code and potentially follow a career path that will allow them to be happy and productive people. So, you don't have to do that. You could know
Yeah.
just enough. It's always helpful because you always run into situations where being more technologically proficient, you're able to communicate what it is you're trying to sell. So even if you dabble with the stuff, it's good, but and it's stuff that you could do. I mean, you can do it. You just have to decide. You have to you got to program yourself to do it. You got to like, well, what's real fun for you to do?
I like running, man.
That's cool. I used to like running too until I bashed my knees running on the concrete. I was doing sprints. That's real good, and that's something that you also have to do it because you gotta find some activity in your life. Now that I'm older, I mean, I'm finding that I'm allergic to certain things, and that's because the protections that you had when you were younger, you don't have them. So I'm a bit lactose intolerant. Like if I drink too much milk, like my eyes start getting dry and all this stuff, I get tired. So I had to stop drinking cow's milk. And now I have to like drink, almond milk and all this healthy, coconut milk. Now I can even drink almond milk because sometimes that hurts my stomach. So initially I didn't want to do that. Like I love milk, and I love dairy products. But as I repetitively continue to consume the almond milk and all this other stuff, now I like it more than the regular milk. Now I can't. So your brain gets to the point where this guy's not giving up. All right, so let's have him like this stuff. Understand? So
Yeah,
I don't know if you heard was it "Calm Down" by Eminem?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, where he's rhyming with Busta Rhymes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so he has a line where he says, "I bully my mind to make it do what I want it to do." So and it got to the point where he says he wakes up and he has like rhymes coming like tumbling out of his mind. So that's why he could freestyle and all this other stuff because he's forced himself to do that. You got to force yourself. You got to. So the more that you so even if you get into the habit, all right, I'm going to do this for an hour at least one day. Start with 20 minutes. Little by little, your brain. It's kind of like when you're working out. I bet you when you started running, I mean, this is the way actually when like there's been times like I don't run anymore, but there were times when all right, I'm going to get back into training or whatever. So I start or running like I was running before. So I wasn't running like I don't start off doing 4 miles. Like I
Yeah,
start off, all right, let me just go soft 1 mile, bang, 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 bang. You start getting stronger. Next day, 1 mile, and I'm doing 1 mile maybe like 2, 3 weeks. Then my body starts asking me for more. Oh, you know what? We can
yeah.
do 2 miles now. But you know what? Let's do. Then you're doing 4 and 5 miles again. Next thing you know, you're doing 5 minute miles again. Bang, bang, bang. You know what I'm saying? So same thing. It's like your body asks you for more. So same thing. Just try to get as much as you can initially. If it's real tough, 10, 20 minutes, whatever you could do on a regular basis to consume to get your plan in place. I mean, I can continue to communicate with you and guide you as best as I can. And no, I definitely think that the Course Careers program, again, not financial advice or you ultimately decide what you want to do. But what I like about the program is they say they can prepare you, depending on how fast you move through the program, in as little as like a month or something like that. And trust, I
Yeah.
mean, and the thing with which I'll close is that if you're not where you're at financially, the first investment, or anywhere for that matter, the first investment needs to come in the form of your education. Now, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be a collegiate education, it has to be formal. I mean, most of what I have done to be successful, it has come from my self-education. Because, all right, I became a journalist. I was studying to be a journalist, and I couldn't be a journalist out of college because they didn't teach me how to sell myself. So I was sending pitches to magazines here and there. I didn't know how to sell myself. Once I learned how to sell myself through self-education, through learning, I mean, initially it was all I was looking for. Actually, I started paying for content after a while. Like, I read the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book, and I read how he recommended that you should pay for content, pay for and it makes sense. It's like if you're gonna be a pilot, you're not gonna just be a pilot without getting educated yourself on how to do it. You're gonna kill yourself, right? So you come out your pockets to learn how to do it. I don't know if you saw one of my most previous videos. This guy, he learned how to be a pilot in 1 year. He became a pilot in 1 year.
Yeah.
And he got his mother to get a loan for everything. 2 hours a day. Initially, so he can get all the certifications before he started the school. Then once he went to the school, within a year, he got certified. He became an instructor. Now he's an airline pilot for Delta. Understand? And this is a guy that came with limited means. He has no college degree either. He has no collegiate background either. And initially they had told him he had the dream of being a pilot when he was little, and he didn't have good vision. And one of his middle school teachers told him, listen, you'll never be a pilot, but all these opportunities came and unfolded. Once you say, this is what I want to do, you're going to see the world work in certain ways where God's going to give you the opportunity, whether it's using the resources that I provide or another resource that may best help you get to wherever it is that you need to get. And you'll definitely do it, man. And I look forward to seeing everything at which you're going to be successful. Again, I'll pray for you. You're in our family's prayers. And let me know, man. Any other questions?
No, man, you gave me a lot to digest for sure, man. It's really like how you said, man. It's a discipline of every day, right? It's a discipline of waking up and working out when you really don't want to. One thing that I started doing was exactly that. Starting like this month of May, like you know what, I want to work out. So I wake up every day at least 20 minutes, man. 20
At
minutes.
least.
Yeah, at least 20 minutes. Like today, I wasn't able to do it. We had some family situations going on, but I'm like, you know what? It's just one day. I'll pick it up tomorrow. So yeah, I completely understand it. And that's the thing, right? Like that as I mean, we can make as many excuses as we want, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, those excuses ain't gonna get you no results. They're gonna get you the results that you don't want. So no, I humbly feel where you're coming from.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. I mean, try with what you got. Do everything possible, and God will do everything that's impossible to ensure that what you want comes to fruition. I honestly believe that. That's what gets me up to do everything that I need to do every single day. And as long as you push yourself to do it, I think of everything that motivates me, everything. I mean, I was looking at what was it? What did I see the other day? The Air movie with Michael Jordan. Even when now what I'm doing is like, even if I'm watching a movie or something like that, I'm taking notes and I'm trying to see how I could find different ways that I could incorporate what I'm watching into my videos or whatever I'm producing. So yeah, that was like the perfect motivator when I saw this movie Air, because I just saw, like Michael Jordan's work ethic. And I started taking a look at, what Kobe was talking about, how he put time into everything. He didn't sleep. Michael Jordan, he was more of a person that, based off what I see, because he managed to perform different activities and yet still be at the top of his game. I believe he's the greatest of all time. So, but he's always looking to be the best at something by continually to practice, to put the time into it. So as long as you put the time into it, Kobe said that when he was, I think, 10 or 12, he was the worst player in the state. And he would go like to these camps and he wouldn't score one. He said he went to one like during the summer, he didn't score once. And he said in 2 years, after practicing about 2 hours a day, he became the best in the state. So
Uh,
sometimes it's just, only putting 2 hours a day, and this is something that made him into one of the greatest athletes of all time. You know what I'm saying? That gave him the foundation. I mean, after that, he practiced a lot more, of course, but, because at that age, you got school and you have all these other responsibilities, but that's incredible. I mean, that's incredible if you could just put 2 hours in. And if you start to inventory all your hours on a daily basis, start to analyze and document what it is that you do with your time, you'll find 2 hours. Trust me. You'll find 2 hours.
yeah,
Like one of my problems, like I wish I had brought my kids earlier to train like sports and stuff like that, because they're computer kids. They love the like me, you know what I'm saying? They're geeks like me. So I figure, you know what, professionally, they'll probably only do computer stuff and they like it. Why I'm going to take them into sports? But I noticed that there was physical aspects to the way that they needed to interact with other people, with the world, that they would better develop being around other children in a physical environment such as basketball or a sport. And I see
yeah,
them, it's been tough for them to take on the sport later in life, as opposed to some other kids that I see that are like, they've been there since like 4 or 5 years old. And
yeah,
then, even if they're just playing an hour a day after all these years, these kids play like, they're making shots from the half court, little people, 4'5" people just go and getting busy. And I'm like, wow. So, yeah, I mean, time is going to pass anyway. It just depends on where you put your time. Anyway, to my point that I was about to not make right now, because I digress so much, is that also there was one of my excuses was like, I don't have the time to be taking them every single day. And now I find the time. I know that there's time to take them. Even
yeah,
while I'm going over there, I'm educating myself on learning how to market my business better. I've got my audio books playing in the car. I'm also letting them listen to it. So I'm making time. And even while I'm over there, sometimes instead of just watching them, I'm just watching like, an audio book. I'm making sure that the time is as productive as possible to contribute towards my development as well as theirs. So there's always time to get the stuff done. There's always a way for you to get it done as long as you're alive. Once you're gone, I mean, you're gone. What are you going to do? You're resting at that juncture. You're not warring anymore. But while we're here, while we're in the fight, I mean, make it ignite, baby.
Yeah, I like that, man. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, man,
man.
man, I really do. You definitely gave me a lot of food for thought. Really, I know what it comes down to, and it really comes down to how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? And what are you willing to do, and what are you willing to give up to get to that point? So
Right.
I see.
No, and you don't have to kill yourself. But one of the snags that I've run into is that sometimes I see a guy like Kobe, right? And I'm like, wow, this dude's the greatest of all time. But he says he only slept like 3 hours. I can't do that. I mean, and I shouldn't say I can't. I'm actually contradicting myself. But when I don't sleep like 7, 8 hours now, I guess it gets probably the age, man. I don't even know what it is anymore. It's like, my brain is not half operating. It's like, it's all, there's like some PTSD issues going on and stuff from shit that I encountered in the past. But yeah, I mean, when I get to sleep 7, 8 hours, that's when I'm right there. I don't need coffee. I don't need anything. I'm on point. So so I look at him like, wow, he only slept that much. But then I asked this guy who became a pilot in a year, and I asked him, did you lose sleep? And I said, no. I was like, no, 2 hours a day. I was studying 2 hours a day, and then he did make some sacrifices and moved into his parents' house and to cut down on his costs and stuff like that. And there are some sacrifices you may want or have to make, but there's always a way to manage, man. God will always give us the path as long as what you're doing is going to help you love thy neighbor to fulfill his commandment. I strongly believe that any challenge that you encounter is something that you can resolve and is something for which he's given you a resource.